In this video, we're looking at terminating and reoccurring decimals. So recurring decimal has a pattern of numbers that repeat themselves over and over. So we usually use dots to indicate the digits that are repeating. So if we have a look here, if I zoom in, you can see that we have 0.44444. The dot on the bottom means it's just going on forever. So instead of continually writing all those fours, what us lazy mathematicians tend to do is write 0.4 with a little dot above it. You can see a little dot there. So that means that 4 is repeating. So if we have a look at 0.83333, the 8 itself is not repeating, but the 3 is. So when you look at the answer there with the dot notation, only the 3 has the dot above it because it is the only digit repeating. Now if we look at the next one, 0.54545454, yep, 5 and 4 are the ones repeating, so we have dots above both of them because they're both repeating. Now alternatively, we have something called a terminating decimal. So this has no repeating decimals, but instead just stops, hence why it's called terminating. So 0.3 is a terminating decimal, 0.5689, 0.2, these are terminating decimals. They do not repeat themselves over and over. So here we have three recurring decimals, and we need to use dot notation to simplify them because, again, mathematicians are lazy. So firstly, we're looking at what's repeating here, and it's these first two digits here, the 4 and the 5. So when I go to write it out, I can write my 4 and the 5 there, and then I just add dots above them. You may also see something similar to this, a bar above it. These mean the same things, all right? These are the same. So don't get too confused if you see a bar in a test or a question. Now the next one we have 0.8999999. So I write until we get to where we start repeating. So 0.89, and then it's the same after that, and then I put my dot above the 9. And same thing here, I write until I get to my repeating digit, which is 2, and I put my dot above it. And that's all there is to dot notation and recurring decimals. So now we're looking at converting fractions to a decimal and then stating whether it's recurring or terminating. So first thing we need to do is we don't want it like this. So what we need to do is essentially we put it into the calculator as 1 divided by 3. So 1 divided by 3, and it'll come out as 0.3333333, and that goes on. So I go 0.3 with a dot above it, and I can state that that is a recurring decimal. Now on your calculator, if you're using a Casio, which I think you should, it's a really good device, you will find you have a button something like this. SD button is what I call it. Now that button there will let you change between fractions and decimals. So if you get 0.333 but you want it as a fraction, you just click that button. Now that button's found above the delete button on your Casio. It's a very friendly button and it's very important to learn. So we'll do the next one. We have 1 over 4. So 1 divided by 4, 0.25. There's no repeating there, so we know that that is a terminating decimal. Okay. All right. Now we have a mixed fraction where we have a whole number out the front. So there's two ways we can solve this. The first would be using a calculator, and what you want to do is you want to press your shift button. Again, we're dealing with Casios here. Your shift button, and then click your fraction button. So that allows you to put a mixed fraction in. Now, if you do not want to do this, what you need to do is you need to multiply your whole number, so 1 times 12, to get that out. So that's 12, and then we add it to the 7. So 7 plus 12 over 12, which means we get an improper fraction of 19 over 12, and then we can go 19 divided by 12, and we get 1.5833333 ... So we know that this is a recurring, and it's 1.583 with the dot above that. So it's recurring. Alright, so what we did here, remember, is you can either use your calculator here, which is the simplest way, Casio calculator, or you can do it mathematically, which was over here. Alright, both ways work. You times your whole number by your denominator and then add it to the top. So multiply your whole number by the denominator and add to the numerator. Now, to end the video, we'll do a quick recap. Remember, a recurring decimal has a pattern of numbers that repeat, and we use the dots to indicate the digits that are repeating. And there's your first example there, the 0.44444, and then it as a dot notation is 0.4 with a dot above it. Now, a terminating decimal, remember, has no repeating numbers, but just stops, so 0.43 would be an example of that.